All right, so we've gotten a ton of requests from you guys about the global AI scene.
Yeah.
Really want to know who's ahead, who's
Uh,
behind. Is it even a race at all? You know.
uh,
So you sent over a stack of articles and reports. Really fascinating stuff.
Absolutely.
And we're going to do a deep dive into this.
Okay.
I was just reading about this AI summit they held at the Grand Palais in Paris.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine
Wow.
like 100 world leaders and tech giants all in one room
It's hard to fathom.
hashing out the future of AI? I mean,
It's a lot of power in one room, right?
so,
It really does paint a picture, right?
yeah.
And, it's interesting because you've got all these different approaches that are being highlighted at this summit. You've got Europe aiming for a major role, but maybe getting tripped up by their own regulations.
Right.
And then you have the U.S. going all in on deregulation, pouring money into AI.
Yeah.
And, of course, China emerging as a real contender with this cost-effective approach. So it's definitely a lot more complex than just one country winning.
It's almost like everyone's playing a different game with different rules.
Yeah, exactly.
But amidst all of this, there's this specific rivalry that really caught my eye. And it's this OpenAI from the U.S. versus DeepSeek from China.
Right.
These AI models seem to be at the forefront of this whole AI race. What's the story there?
Well, it's not just about national pride. It's about who controls this technology that could potentially change everything.
Yeah.
You see, some experts believe that AI could be as revolutionary as the internet or even the Industrial Revolution.
Wow.
We're talking about potential shifts in global power dynamics, economic landscapes, everything.
Well, if AI is that big, are we talking years, decades before we truly see its impact? I mean, look at GPS.
Right.
It's been around forever, and London cabbies still memorize every street.
You've hit on a crucial point. These things take time. The full impact of AI might not be felt for years or even decades.
Yeah.
But think about this. $1 billion is spent on AI globally every single day. That kind of investment shows how seriously everyone's taking this. But it also highlights that we're still in the early stages.
$1 billion a day. That's mind-boggling.
It is.
So you mentioned the U.S. and China having different approaches.
Right.
What are the key differences in their strategies?
The U.S., with OpenAI as a prime example, focuses on massive investment and controlling key resources, things like chips, cloud access data. It's a very resource-intensive approach.
Yeah.
But China's DeepSeek is built on being cheaper and more efficient. They use a different type of algorithmic architecture that requires less processing power, which means they can achieve results with fewer resources.
So it's like DeepSeek is this scrappy underdog
Yeah, kind of.
that's shaking things up.
A little bit, yeah.
I even read that OpenAI accused DeepSeek of copying their technology.
Yeah.
Is this going to lead to like restrictions, like a global AI Cold War even?
That's a real concern. If the U.S. starts to perceive China's AI development as a threat, we could see tighter export controls and a fragmentation of the global AI landscape.
Yeah.
Imagine if research development and access to this technology gets divided along geopolitical lines.
Okay, so we've got the U.S. and China going head-to-head. Where does Europe fit into all of this?
Yeah.
They seem to be stuck in a bit of a dilemma.
You're right. Europe wants to be a major player.
Yeah.
But their stringent regulations might be holding them back. They're
Right.
trying to walk this tightrope of fostering innovation while upholding their ethical standards.
Right.
But it's a tough balance to strike.
Especially with pushback from the industry, right?
Yeah.
I came across this quote from Meta, Facebook's parent company,
Right.
calling some of the EU's AI rules unworkable.
Yeah.
I mean, is Europe really willing to loosen the reins to stay competitive?
There's a lot of skepticism about that. The EU has a long history of strong regulation, and it's unclear if they're prepared to make the drastic changes needed to keep pace with the US and China.
So if Europe struggles, what happens to the rest of the world?
Right.
Are we going to see this growing gap
Yeah.
between those who benefit from AI and those who get left behind?
That's a valid concern. There's a real risk that the benefits of AI could be concentrated in wealthier nations, leaving developing countries behind.
Yeah.
And you can imagine how this has the potential for exacerbating existing inequalities and creating new ones.
That's a pretty bleak outlook.
Yeah.
I mean, is there any hope for more equitable distribution of AI's benefits?
Well, consider this.
Okay.
The emergence of cheaper and more efficient AI models like DeepSeek could actually empower developing nations.
Okay.
Countries like Kenya or Uganda could potentially leapfrog ahead, using AI to address their local challenges and drive economic growth. It's not a guaranteed win, but it is a possibility that challenges this narrative of AI inevitably widening the gap between the rich and poor.
That's a really interesting point. It flips the script on the whole AI inequality idea.
Yeah.
But let's talk about a different kind of impact.
Yeah.
The potential for AI in the military.
Right.
We've got to address the elephant in the room here.
Yeah.
Things like autonomous weapons, AI-driven warfare. Are we talking science fiction or a scary reality?
We're definitely talking reality. This isn't some distant future scenario.
Uh,
AI is already being incorporated into military applications, from drones and surveillance systems to complex decision-making algorithms. And the pace of development is increasing rapidly.
Yeah.
This is something I feel very strongly about, to the point where I've actually spoken at the UN about the dangers of autonomous weapons.
Wow, that's incredible. So you're not just an expert. You're actively involved in shaping this conversation
Trying to be. Yeah.
about AI's role in the world.
Yeah.
Tell me, what's the biggest challenge when it comes to preventing AI from being used for harm?
I think it's understanding that AI is a dual-use technology. It can be used for good, like in medical diagnosis, or it can be used for harmful purposes, like targeting weapons.
Right.
The same algorithms that can help us understand and cure diseases can be used to develop more sophisticated and potentially devastating weapon systems.
That's a sobering thought.
It is.
So the question becomes, how do we harness AI for good while mitigating the risks? How do we ensure that it's used ethically, especially in sensitive areas like healthcare, law enforcement, and, as you mentioned, the military? It feels like we're at a crossroads.
You are at a crossroads.
And the decisions we make now will have huge implications for the future.
Absolutely. And it's not just about governments and tech companies making decisions behind closed doors.
Yeah.
This is a conversation that needs to involve everyone. The future of AI is something we're all shaping collectively, and we need to be actively involved in shaping it.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground already. The global race for AI dominance, the different approaches of the U.S. and China, the ethical implications, and the potential impact on developing nations. But there's so much more to uncover, right?
Oh, yeah, tons.
Stay with us as we continue this deep dive into the world of AI in part 2. So we left off talking about some pretty heavy stuff. AI's potential in warfare and the ethical dilemmas that come with it.
Right.
It feels like we're on the verge of a whole new era of conflict.
Yeah.
One where algorithms could be making life or death decisions.
It's definitely a complex landscape, that's for sure. The speed at which AI is being integrated into military technologies is staggering.
Right.
But the real question is, how do we govern this technology?
Yeah.
How do we ensure that it's used responsibly and ethically,
Right.
especially in such a high-stakes arena?
We touched on the EU's efforts to regulate AI,
Yeah.
but is that enough?
Yeah.
Shouldn't this be a global conversation? I mean, are there even any international bodies or agreements in place to deal with something like autonomous weapons?
Well, there have been discussions at the UN level about the need for international regulations on autonomous weapon systems, but reaching a consensus is proving to be incredibly challenging. It's a bit like trying to herd cats.
Right.
You've got all these different nations with different priorities, different ethical frameworks, and different levels of technological development.
So are we headed towards a future where every country is just making up its own rules about AI and warfare?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be chaotic? Maybe even dangerous?
It's a very real possibility. A fragmented approach to AI governance could lead to a lack of transparency, an increased risk of misuse, and even an AI arms race.
Right.
Imagine a scenario where countries are constantly trying to outdo each other with more sophisticated and autonomous weapon systems without any clear international norms or regulations.
Okay, so that sounds like a recipe for disaster. What's the alternative? I mean, is there any hope for global cooperation on AI? Especially when it comes to something as sensitive as the military.
Well, there's some glimmers of hope. There are initiatives like the Global Partnership on AI, which brings together countries from around the world to collaborate on AI research and development with a focus on ethical considerations.
So is that where the idea of a global commons for AI comes in? Like a shared resource that benefits everyone, even when it comes to military applications? I mean, how would that even work?
So the Global Commons concept for AI is all about creating a space where knowledge, data, and expertise are shared openly and collaboratively.
Okay.
So that all countries can benefit from AI's potential.
Right.
While mitigating the risks. Imagine a scenario where countries pool their resources and expertise to develop AI systems for defense that prioritize de-escalation, minimize civilian casualties, and adhere to international humanitarian law.
That sounds pretty utopian.
Yeah, it does a bit.
I mean, how do you get countries, especially those that might be rivals,
Right.
to trust each other enough to share their AI advancements,
Yeah.
especially in the military domain?
It's definitely a challenge. There's always a risk that shared knowledge could be used to gain a military advantage. But think about it this way. A fragmented AI landscape with limited cooperation might actually be more dangerous.
Okay.
It could lead to mistrust, miscalculations, and even accidental escalation.
I see what you mean. If everyone's operating in their own silos,
Yeah.
it's harder to understand each other's intentions and capabilities. It's
Exactly.
almost like everyone's fumbling around in the dark,
Mm-hmm.
and that's when accidents happen.
Exactly. So while it might be difficult, finding ways to cooperate on AI governance, even in the military context, is crucial for global security.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that we're all facing this challenge together,
Mm-hmm.
and that collaboration might be our best hope for avoiding unintended consequences.
Okay, so global cooperation is key.
Yeah.
But what about the role of individuals in all of this?
Right.
What can ordinary people do to ensure that AI is developed and used responsibly, especially when it comes to something like autonomous weapons? It feels so big and out of our control.
It might seem that way, but there's actually a lot individuals can do. First and foremost, stay informed. Educate yourself about AI, understand its potential benefits and risks, and engage in conversations about its implications.
Okay.
The more people understand about AI, the more likely we are to make informed decisions about its future.
So knowledge is power.
Right.
But what else? I mean, can we actually influence how AI is developed and used?
Mm-hmm.
It's not like we have access to these powerful technologies
Right.
or have a say in government policies.
You might not have direct access to the technology, but you do have a voice. Support organizations that are working to promote ethical AI development and use.
Oh, wait.
There are numerous NGOs, think tanks, and research groups dedicated to this issue.
Mm-hmm.
And don't underestimate the power of collective action.
So we can make our voices heard through supporting these organizations.
Mhm.
But how about engaging with our elected officials?
Right.
Can we push for policies that prioritize ethical considerations in AI development?
Absolutely. Contact your elected officials, voice your concerns, and demand that they take this issue seriously. Advocate for policies that promote transparency, accountability, and human oversight in the development and deployment of AI systems.
Right.
Remember, governments are ultimately accountable to their citizens, and your voices matter.
So it's about staying informed, getting involved, and using our voices to shape the future of AI.
Exactly.
We're not just passive bystanders.
Right.
We have agency in this process.
We do.
It's not just about leaving it to the experts or the policymakers. It's about being active participants in shaping the future we want to see.
Precisely. AI isn't some inevitable force that's going to happen to us. It's something we're creating collectively. And we have the power to influence its trajectory, to ensure that it serves humanity, not the other way around. But it requires active engagement, informed debate, and a willingness to challenge the status quo.
Okay, so we've talked about global cooperation, individual responsibility, ethical guidelines, and the challenges of governing AI, especially in the military context. But let's shift gears a bit and talk about the potential for AI to be used for good in the world.
Okay.
I mean, we focused a lot on the risks, but what about the possibilities?
Yeah, the possibilities are vast and they span across various sectors. For example, in healthcare, AI is already being used to diagnose diseases, personalize treatments, and develop new drugs at an unprecedented pace.
You know, I was reading about a study where an AI algorithm was able to detect early signs of Alzheimer's disease
Right.
with the incredible accuracy even before symptoms appeared.
Wow.
That's just mind-blowing.
It is.
Can you imagine the impact that could have on people's lives?
It's a game changer for sure. Early detection allows for early intervention, which can significantly slow down the progression of the disease and improve the quality of life. And that's just one example. AI is also being used to analyze medical images, predict patient outcomes, and even assist with surgery. It's revolutionizing the way we approach healthcare.
So it's not just about replacing doctors or nurses. It's about augmenting their capabilities,
Exactly.
giving them tools to make better decisions and provide better care.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it is.
But what about other areas? What about AI's potential in addressing global challenges like climate change?
Right.
Can it really make a difference there?
Absolutely. In the fight against climate change, AI can be used to optimize energy consumption, monitor deforestation, and develop more efficient renewable energy technologies. It can analyze vast amounts of data to identify patterns and trends, helping us understand the complex dynamics of our planet's climate system.
I can even see how AI could be used in disaster response, right?
Yeah.
Analyzing data from satellites and drones to assess damage, locate survivors, and coordinate relief efforts more effectively. It could potentially save countless lives.
Absolutely. And in education, AI can be used to personalize learning, provide real-time feedback, and make high-quality education more accessible to people around the world, regardless of their location or socioeconomic background. The potential for AI to democratize education and empower individuals is immense.
So it's not just about replacing jobs or automating tasks, it's about augmenting human capabilities.
Right.
Solving complex problems and creating a better future for everyone.
Yeah.
It's about finding innovative solutions to some of humanity's biggest challenges.
Exactly. And that's the vision we need to keep in mind as we navigate this uncharted territory.
Yeah.
AI is a powerful tool, and like any powerful tool, it can be used for good or for ill.
Right.
It's up to us to choose wisely.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground in this part of our deep dive.
We have.
We've talked about the need for global cooperation, the role of individuals, the potential for AI to be used for good, and the challenges of governing this rapidly evolving technology. But the conversation is far from over. There's still so much to explore.
Oh, yeah. We've only just begun to scratch the surface.
But that's the beauty of a deep dive, isn't it?
Exactly.
We're going deep, asking tough questions and challenging assumptions.
Yeah.
And we're doing it together because this is a conversation that needs to involve everyone.
The future of AI is not something that's going to be decided by a few tech companies or governments. It's something we're all shaping collectively. And it's up to us to ensure that we create a future where AI benefits humanity as a whole. So stay tuned for the final part of our deep dive into the world of AI. We've talked about AI's potential to revolutionize so much healthcare warfare, but it's the speed of development that gets me. It seems like every day there's like a new breakthrough, a new application, a new headline about AI doing something incredible or maybe a little unsettling. It's hard to keep up.
Yeah, it really is a whirlwind of advancements.
Yeah.
And it does create this sense of being on the cusp of something truly transformative. But at the same time, you feel a bit uncertain about where it's all heading, right?
Yeah, that's what makes this whole conversation so fascinating, so crucial.
Right.
It's not enough to just understand AI as it is today. We have to kind of anticipate what it might become tomorrow.
And that's where it gets really interesting, right?
Yeah.
Because as we've talked about, AI isn't just this neutral technology. It reflects our values, our hopes, even our fears.
Right.
It's like this mirror held up to humanity, forcing us to confront some pretty big questions.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
AI is forcing us to grapple with what it means to be human in an age of intelligent machines.
Yeah.
What kind of society do we want to build? What role should technology play in our lives?
Right.
These aren't questions with easy answers, and we won't find them in algorithms or data sets.
So how do we find those answers?
Right.
If it's not about the technology itself, where do we even begin to look for guidance?
I think we find them through dialogue,
Okay.
through open and honest debate, through engaging with diverse perspectives.
Yeah.
We need to challenge our own assumptions and be willing to listen to viewpoints that might differ from our own.
It's like this deep dive isn't just about AI.
Right.
It's about us.
Mm-hmm.
It's about understanding ourselves, our place in the world,
Yeah.
how we want to shape the future. But let's get practical for a second.
Okay.
What can people do to prepare for this AI-powered world that's rapidly emerging?
The first thing I would say is to embrace lifelong learning.
Okay.
The skills that are in high demand today might become obsolete tomorrow. Adaptability is key.
Yeah.
Be willing to learn new things, continuously update your skill set, and be open to new ways of working.
So it's not just about technical skills, right?
Yeah.
It's about those uniquely human skills.
Right.
Creativity, critical thinking, problem solving.
Exactly.
Are those the skills that will be even more valuable as AI becomes more integrated into our lives?
Absolutely. Those are the skills that will set us apart,
Mm-hmm.
that will allow us to work alongside AI in a collaborative way.
Oh.
And don't be afraid to experiment. Explore new technologies. See how you can use AI as a tool to enhance your work, your life, your community.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
And I would add, stay curious, stay engaged, stay connected. This AI revolution is happening whether we like it or not, so let's be part of the conversation and shape its direction.
Couldn't agree more. The future is not something that's happening to us. It's something we're creating collectively.
Yeah.
And the choices we make today will determine what that future looks like.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with one final thought, one final question to ponder.
Okay.
You've seen the potential, the rivalries, the risks, the incredible possibilities.
Okay.
Now, the big question is, what role will AI play in your future?
Right.
How will you adapt and thrive in this rapidly changing world?
It's a question worth reflecting on.
Yeah.
The answers will be different for everyone.
Yeah.
But one thing is certain. The AI revolution is here, and it's up to each of us to decide how we'll navigate it.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep questioning.